The first 48 hours after a murder are crucial for any investigation. These hours determine how forensic evidence is gathered, how witnesses are questioned, and how suspects are identified. But when it comes to the Idaho murders, things become even more mysterious. By now, we've covered how 4 University of Idaho students, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, Zana Knodel, and Kaylee Gonsalves, were tragically murdered in their off-campus home in the early hours of November 13, 2022. After a 7-week investigation, on December 30, 2022, police announced the arrest of Brian Koberger. If you're unfamiliar with the basic details, we recommend watching our previous videos to get up to speed. Our focus now shifts to the controversies surrounding the timeline and the many inconsistencies in the case. Welcome to Bad Things, a channel where you explore shocking mysteries. Stick around as we break down the first 48 hours of the Idaho case, clear up various confusions, and analyze what has been confirmed and what remains uncertain. Most importantly, we'll discuss the factors that could work in the defense's favor in court. We'll also uncover shocking new details about that night, information that has only recently come to light. The story is far more complicated than you think. Let's get into it. To better understand the controversies, it's important to first analyze the timeline initially shared with the public. You might already be familiar with the timeline for this case, but newly released 911 calls and text messages could significantly change the direction of the investigation. We've connected the previously and newly revealed details to create the updated timeline. On the night of November 12th, Gonsalves and Mogen were at a local bar, according to the probable cause affidavit. By around 1:30 a.m. on November 13th, surveillance footage captured them at a local food vendor, Grub Truckers. The video shows them ordering $10 worth of carbonara while casually chatting with each other and others around them. In the footage, they appear genuinely happy, with no signs of distress or danger. At 1:56 a.m., Gonsalves and Mogen took a ride back to their residence. According to Gonsalves' sister, Olivia, Gonsalves called her boyfriend at 2:56 a.m., but he didn't answer. After that, she likely fell asleep. One of the 2 surviving roommates, Bethany Funk, saw Chapin and Knodel at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus on the evening of November 12th. Chapin was also seen attending a sorority formal with his sister before heading to the Sigma Chi house. Chapin and Knodel arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. on November 13th. Bethany and another surviving roommate, Dylan Mortensen, also went out in the hours before the murders. According to court documents, Dylan messaged an Uber driver at 2:10 a.m. to inquire if he was driving, suggesting her intention to return home at that time. According to statements from Bethany and Dylan, all the victims were home by 2 a.m. and had either fallen asleep or were at least in their rooms by 4 a.m., except for Knodel, who received her DoorDash order at the residence around that time. Suspicious activities. At approximately 4 a.m., Dylan, whose bedroom was near Knodel's, woke up due to some noise. A security camera positioned less than 50 feet from Knodel's bedroom captured distorted sounds of voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud at approximately 4:17 a.m. The recently released transcripts show the panic-filled conversation between Dylan and Bethany just before 4:30 a.m. They were feeling frightened as the victims were not responding to their calls and texts. Dylan is identified as DM and Bethany as BF. "No one is answering. I'm really confused, RN," Dylan texted Bethany. "Kaylee, what's going on?" Dylan then texted Gonsalves. "I'm freaking out, RN," Dylan texted Bethany. Dylan referred to someone saying, "like a ski mask almost," to Bethany, who responded, "STFU." Dylan also mentioned that her phone was about to die. The last messages were truly horrifying, as Bethany texted Dylan, "Run." While these messages don't explain the entire story, they clearly suggest that something was wrong at the home around 4 a.m. and point to the presence of a suspicious person. Prosecutors want these text messages admitted in court saying they present sense impressions and excited utterances. The documents state that Dylan overheard crying coming from Knodl's room. She also heard a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." When Dylan opened her door, she saw a masked man dressed in black with bushy eyebrows, according to the affidavit. Additionally, Dylan described the man as being around 5'7" or taller, not very muscular but athletically built. He exited the house through the rear sliding door, after which the 4 bodies were found in the morning. The description of this man matches that of Koberger. According to recent court documents, at 10:23 a.m. on November 13th, Dylan texted her roommates again, seemingly worried and expecting a response from any of them. "Please answer. Are you up?" The new filings included a redacted transcript of the 911 call made at 11:58 a.m. after another roommate identified as HJ found Knodl's unresponsive body. It reveals a highly panicked situation, describing how Dylan and Bethany passed a phone between them while speaking with the dispatcher. The court filings explained that the voices of 2 women, 4 men, and the dispatcher could be heard on the call, along with crying and heavy breathing. One woman said, "Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what. We have..." Later, another woman said, "One of the roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night." The dispatcher asked if she was breathing, and she said no. Someone else on the scene said, "I think we have a homicide." Inconsistent details and controversies. One of the most suspicious aspects of the case is why the 911 call was so delayed. As we've discussed, the messages show that the roommates were aware of the danger. Dylan even saw the suspicious man, so why didn't she act immediately? Acting sooner could have potentially saved lives. For example, one Reddit user questioned, "One of my biggest questions about her is how she didn't leave her room for over 8 hours. If she'd been drinking or even not, how did she not have to go to the bathroom? The only bathroom was in the hallway. The reason that's important is how did she not see any blood on the floor, walls, etc.? While the delayed 911 call is certainly something to consider, some justify Dylan's behavior given the escalating situation. Dylan made it clear that when the man walked past her, she was in a state of frozen shock. CBS News consultant Brianna Fox, a former FBI agent, explained that it's not uncommon for individuals to freeze or be too terrified to act in such situations. This isn't the only controversy surrounding the roommates, particularly Dylan. The way she observed events that night is crucial to the case, but some details remain confusing. According to the affidavit, Dylan woke up to what seemed like Gonsalves playing with a dog on the 3rd floor. Forensic evidence suggests that the noise could have potentially been coming from Knodl's phone. She was likely using TikTok around 4:12 a.m., implying she might have still been alive at that time. Even more suspicious is that Dylan believed she heard Gonsalves say, "There's someone here." Regarding the man Dylan reportedly saw after all of this, rumors suggest that she may have been too intoxicated to determine whether she actually saw him in real life. Some believe it was a party house, making it common for people to come and go. While Dylan was clearly afraid and sent messages, it seems she may have believed she had seen an intruder, not necessarily a murderer. Considering the circumstances of the murder, Idaho authorities made several confusing and conflicting statements. Initially, Moscow Mayor Art Bethke said, "This was an isolated, targeted attack, and there is no imminent threat to the community at large." However, Moscow Police Chief James Fry later contradicted this, saying, "We cannot say there's no threat to the community, and as we have stated, please stay vigilant, report any suspicious activity, and be aware of your surroundings at all times." But that's not all. Latter County prosecutor Bill Thompson initially claimed in an interview that the murderer had specifically targeted this particular house. The following day, Moscow police clarified that there had been some miscommunication and that investigators were still trying to determine the motive. The question remains, what was the motive behind this crime? While authorities haven't confirmed the motive yet, let's try to piece it together. Reports revealed that Koberger followed all 3 female victims on Instagram before their death, but none of the victims followed him back. This is a crucial detail. Additionally, it was reported that Koberger attempted to message one of the females, and when she didn't respond, he sent several more messages. Did they know each other? Or at least did Koberger know about the personal lives of the victims? According to a report by People, Koberger allegedly visited the Mad Greek restaurant in the weeks leading up to the murders. This was the same restaurant where Knodel and Mogen worked as servers. A former employee claimed that Koberger visited the restaurant at least twice to grab vegan pizza. However, it remains unclear if either of these victims ever interacted with Koberger. What's quite shocking is that the owner of the Mad Greek, Jackie Fisher, rejected the claim that Koberger visited the restaurant before the crime. The news/media should really do their due diligence before running a story with completely fabricated information. This will be my only response to this story from People. It is not true. This person who wants their 5 minutes of fame has now caused a whole bunch of extra work for myself and the investigators. There has also been a debate about Koberger's mental health. His attorney recently asserted that Koberger's autism spectrum disorder should prevent him from the death penalty. However, autism isn't generally considered as an intellectual disability. Former FBI investigator Pete Yachmetz believed that it might be due to a history of social issues and that Koberger might have been seeking some form of dominance. The way he continuously stabbed the victims indicates a deep, uncomfortable rage and extreme anger. Former classmates revealed that Koberger was an overweight kid who was bullied in school. He also had a history of being heartbroken by a girl he loved during his school years. However, he later worked hard to lose weight and develop a more attractive personality. One classmate even said, "It's interesting to me that the girls he's accused of killing were nice-looking and seemingly popular, much like the ones that made fun of him throughout his childhood." Possible defense arguments. As we know, DNA collected from the knife sheath found on the bed next to Madison's right side matched Koberger's DNA, which is the main evidence against him. The defense repeatedly raised questions about the accuracy of each step in the DNA testing process. Recently, there has been debate over the blood that police found on the handrail at the crime scene and on a glove outside. The controversy began when it was revealed that the samples belonged to 2 unidentified men. Prosecutors argued that these samples should not be considered if the defense intends to link the blood to any mystery man rather than Koberger. The defense must first prove the relevance of this theory to the case before presenting it. However, the defense may consider this as a way to suggest the involvement of other suspects in the case. Another piece of evidence also emerged in the case, as one of the victims, Mogen, had a 3-person mixture of unknown DNA found under her fingernails. The defense argued that this DNA evidence should be excluded from the jury as it doesn't belong to Koberger, and jurors might make a connection. They claimed that if this happens, it'll violate Koberger's rights. The preliminary testing was done on the fingernail clippings, and the defense's likelihood ratio was deemed inconclusive. They claim to have conducted their own lab tests, which excluded Koberger from the DNA mixture. Misty Maris, an attorney who has closely followed the case, spoke about the defense's strategy, saying, "Their argument is going to be that once that investigative genetic genealogy match was made and Koberger was identified, that law enforcement essentially put on blinders. They didn't care about anything else, so much so that they didn't even care that there is additional DNA evidence, both at the property and now on the person of one of the students. This new DNA evidence makes the case even more mysterious. Additionally, given the recent developments, Dylan and Bethany are expected to testify at the upcoming trial. The confusion in their statements and the updated timeline has shifted many people's viewpoints. However, suspicion still remains regarding the behavior of the surviving roommates that night. So this was our discussion on the crucial first 48 hours of the murder. In this case, these initial moments were the most important, as they hold the key to uncovering the truth. The recently released details and how they've influenced the case's progress have led investigators to scrutinize every single word spoken by the roommates and the way they made the 911 call. By analyzing these details, they can address the questions people have about this case. We may release another video soon, as we're expecting new bombshell evidence to surface at any time. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss it. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this update. Specifically, what do you think about how the defense will attempt to prove Kohberger's innocence in the upcoming trial in August 2025?